Hello, and welcome to today's overview of Rockton Pricing Management for Business Central. Today we're going to take a look at Business Central and how it connects with Rockton Pricing Management, our pricing tool that helps you work simpler and easier and automates even the most obscure pricing scenarios. So let's take a look at it and hop right in. My screen you're looking at right now, what you're seeing is Rockton Pricing Management. The first thing I'd like to let you know about RPM, as we call it, or Rockton Pricing Management, is that it's a standalone web application. It sits outside of Business Central and it connects to Business Central through a connector. So on the BC side, to get that connector installed, you'll just look up the extension marketplace, type in Rockton, you'll find the Rockton Pricing Management, and just install the connector right there in that end. So let's take a look at how it works inside of Business Central. Right here, we have our sales order. Rockton Pricing Management will work with your orders, your invoices, and your quotes. But as soon as you add a line item, the price will just magically come in. So you can see I've added a couple desks here and that this unit price came in right here. This price did come from Rockton Pricing Management. So a couple functionality pieces we will add is you can go over to the line, go related information, and then we added the view adjustments and view diagnostics. So over here we can see the adjustments or what calculations were applied to get that price. In this case we're doing cost plus pricing. We did a vendor rebate and also charge a regulatory fee. It found customer price group as the best customer price class, and so on and so forth. So as soon as you add a line item, the price just comes in like magic. You don't have to do any manual entry at all. So your end users really just use Business Central business as normal. We also have this view diagnostics that allows you to see the logic of how RPM calculated a price, working through which adjustments should and should not apply. So now that you've seen that, let's hop over to Rockton Pricing Management and see how we set it all up. So it's going to start at your price schedule level. Your price schedules are tied to your customer price groups inside of BC. So over here you can see I've got a couple customer price groups set up. Let's take a look at one of them. Here's customer price group 1. This is how we base our pricing. Our price schedules, again, they tie to our customer price groups, and this is kind of our starting base. How are we going to do pricing? We start with the price source option. This is going to be our starting point. What value do you want to start with? And then we'll go ahead and do math starting from that value. So it's common to do item costs. We'll take the item cost that's loaded into BC in your ERP, but we can base on really any value you'd like. We can base on another value in the ERP. We can base it on a price book. We can base it on a list price, so that'd be the list price in the ERP. We can base it on another schedule. So if I have like a loaded cost, I can make a schedule, count it as cost, add my adjustments that make it a loaded cost, like freight or whatever else, and then base the price schedule on that. So that's kind of how you can handle loaded costs using another price schedule. We can find dynamically, and we can start with 0. So in this case, we're starting with cost. We'll give it a nice intuitive name. We'll make sure it's activated by marking this. We can also use it in dynamic pricing. We have a couple pricing options, including dynamic, hybrid, and static. Static pricing, you just select the customer price class right here on the line. I believe it's at the end here. Yeah, you can come in here and just select that price class manually. That would be static. With dynamic, it's going to automatically select that price class based on how you have ranked these. So in this case, I've ranked this schedule the highest, and there's no filter applied. So this customer price group should always apply. But if I want to have multiple price groups and rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, RPM will work through the logic starting with the highest rank and then check if the price can apply. If this pricing was filtered to only apply for a certain group of items, customers, or any other attribute inside of your ERP we can base pricing on, then you put the filter here. Let's see if we have any example filters. For example, our domestic customers. Cool. So if I have this filter applied here, and it's only for my domestic customers, if I create an order and this customer name is not contained in this filter, the domestic customer filter, then this pricing will not apply. So it'll ignore this because it's filtered out. So that's why we can rank our price schedules. So if it finds a customer who's not a domestic price and it doesn't find this price, it's going to go to the next highest rank, rank 2, rank 3, and so on and so forth. So that's dynamic pricing. And then static pricing, we just mentioned too, is that you select it manually. Hybrid is a hybrid of both, as you can imagine. Hybrid, you select when you add a line item, it says, do you want to calculate this static or manually? Static or dynamically, I mean. And then you can choose whether you want to go and select the price class or you want to just do a dynamic. Down here, we can apply a rounding rule. we can round numbers just about any way you'd like. So if you want to round it up, down, or to the nearest 99 cents, multiple of 25 cents, really any value, nearest penny, nearest multiple of some value, that's fine. We can round really any way you'd like. So this is where you'd put on that rounding rule. And then down here are our price calculations. So over here, if you remember from our example at the beginning, we saw a cost plus, we saw a 6% vendor rebate, and a regulatory fee. So any pricing that you want to affect this price group, you would want to add it here. So you create a calculation and you add it down here to the price calculations. I'm going to open up this pricing tab so you can see all of the pricing setup options in here. We started with pricing schedules. Now we're going to work down to price calculations. And then finally, we'll just keep going down the line here. So price calculations are what you see down here. These can also be filtered. So in this case, I've filtered this price schedule to only be my domestic customers. Let me take that off so it doesn't mess up my pricing. But I can also filter these calculations. So for example, this cost plus 40%, or maybe this vendor rebate makes a little more sense. If I want this vendor rebate to only apply for some group of customers, some group of items, customers and items, some other document attribute, any value on the ERP that you want to use to drive pricing, we can build a filter and then put that here. So let's take a look. How about special location? So now only if that location, this was just set as like some random location. So only if we're selling an item to a location or the item's coming from this location, will this vendor rebate apply. So you can conditionally apply when a calculation should or should not apply based on these filters. So going back to the price schedule, you can add as many price calculations as you'd like here. And then you can add filters to make it so they only apply sometimes, conditionally or not conditionally. Let's check out pricing filters. Right here we have pricing filters, and those are going to work together with our calculations to drive pricing. So for example, we have our domestic customers. Let's pull that up. Right here, I've gone ahead and said where customer attribute, customer posting group equals domestic. And now I've got a list of all my customers that are domestic, in my case, in the US. What's cool is we can actually layer these pricing filters multiple ways. So if I'd like, I can add a new value and say, how about a date range? If I want this to be filtered and say the date, this pricing only applies on or before the end of the year, say. So then I can go and put the end of the year. Boom. Now it's for the end of the year. And then you can add as many layers as you like and make it super specific to what you want. So then I can say, and it's only for this item. Only if it's an AirPod. So now I've built up a filter. If I put this on a calculation, say my vendor rebate, then this vendor rebate would only apply if, let me refresh here, so what's that third one? If the item is both an AirPod and the date is before the end of the year this year, and the customer's a domestic customer. So we can build these up and make them as deep and specific as you'd like, and get really nitty gritty. We can also just be very broad and just say, oh, all domestic customers. So however you want to layer them. And remember, you can have as many calculations as you'd like, as many price schedules as you like, and as many price filters as you like. So these pricing filters can be driven based on really any attribute. I'm going to switch over to this tab, the ERP data. So any of this data will drive pricing, including the common ones like customer and item. So if you want to say, hey, these customers get a special price, or hey, these items get some special price, you can do that. But we can also do attributes. So customer attributes, which can be a custom field. Such as or as long as that value is in the ERP, in this case BC, we can do that. So customer posting group is a valid attribute for customers inside of BC. So as long as I just add a customer attribute, just name it the same name it is in BC, it'll connect right away. So then we can now build a filter just like you saw based on that customer posting group. Same with your items. We can base it on the item. So here's a list of all the items that are in my sample BC data. But I can also base it on an attribute. So again, this could be whatever attribute, as long as the attribute has can reference back to BC. So like an inventory posting group, item category code, vendor number, all of that we can use to drive pricing. Most powerfully, we have document attributes. Document attributes are any attribute that's on the document. So in this case, that would be this order. So if there is a custom field or a promo code or a salesperson here, any piece of data that exists on my screen right now, we can use that to drive pricing. You just add it right here. So if I want to say where due date is equal to 5/8, then I just go ahead and add an attribute and say add new. I'll name it due date. And then that would be a, that's a good, it's a date. There we go. A few. it's a data type of date. So as long as you get the data type matched there. So now we have a due date, and we can use that to drive pricing as well. So now let's say, oh, if it's due, if the due date is before the end of the month, then they get an extra priority. If they're after their due date, then they pay more. So with the customers and the items, we can obviously build up some pretty complicated pricing and get your special prices for your items and for your customers, but we can actually use attributes, and that's really what makes RPM powerful, is that we don't have to just do on the customers and items, but actually on the attribute values. Your ship to, your salesperson, your custom promo code, your SKU, your item color, anything like that can be used to drive pricing. So really, as creative as you want to get in your imagination, we can do it. Hopping back over to that pricing filters, we saw that domestic customer filters. One handy thing about when you build these filters, I'm going to go ahead and fix them by removing this date, remove that, and I'll remove this item too. So it's just a clean domestic customers filter. With this clean filter, we can actually look really easily and see who's contained in here. In case you don't know who your domestic customers are, we can look at customers and filter and items and filter. In this case, all of our customers are domestic, so we see all 5 customers here. They're all in the US. And then over here we can see items and filter. Oh, I should have left that item in there maybe. I can go add it back in really quick. We'll just go ahead and add an item so you can see that. Here's item equals, say, this item, AirPod again. Go ahead and save it. Save and close. Refresh, there we go, and we'll save it. And now we can see items and filter, and you see only that AirPod is there. So now this is a filter that we can easily see what this filter applies to, and that is AirPods and these customers are being filtered. So that's how we can build pricing filters and use that to drive pricing. Now once we have our filters built, we can use those on the calculations. So let's get back into these calculations and think about how these are going to look. So let's go into our cost plus 40%. Our price calculations start by giving them an intuitive name. In this case, it's just a 40% adjustment. We're going to modify the unit price in this case because we want to add 40% to the value. If you don't want to modify the unit price or you don't want to change the price, you can do that too. You might be asking, why would you not want to change the price? Well, if you're doing a rebate or a commission, you just want to track a value to a GL account. You don't want to actually change the price and sell it for less. You just want to accrue that rebate to your accrue accounts. So then just unmark this modify unit price and you're good to go. Over here, we have all of our options to do math. We can do a fixed adjustment. This would be a whole dollar amount. We can multiply by. So if you want to multiply, like if the cost comes in as $100 and multiply by 2, that would be $200. We can do a percent adjustment. So say 25. This adds 25%. Minus 25 would take away 25%. Percent margin. This guarantees your profit margin on an item. So in this case, if I have a percent margin set at 40, that guarantees that when I sell that item, 40% of the sale price is going to be my profit, and my cost will be 60%. So if I sell an item that comes in with a cost of, say, $100, the calculated price with percent margin of 40 would be $166.67. That's because 66.67 is 40% of that total, 166.67, giving you 66.67 profit, and then the remaining 100 or 60% of the total is your cost. So that's percent margin. We can also do percent of meaning times. So if I did 140, that'd be 140% of. So that'd be the same way to get cost plus 40. 140% of $100, if that's what's coming in as the cost, would be 140. We can do a custom SQL calculation. So if you can't, you don't like one of the calculations you have here, you can write it yourself. We can do a no change in case we want to track some value to a GL account, but not actually change anything. And then finally, we can reset the price to, in case we're doing some math along the way and we say, all right, this item, I want to reset the price back down to $100 and then do something else with it or whatever. You can do that as well. So in this case, we're going to do a percent adjustment, positive 40. We'll hit save. If we want this cost plus to only apply to some group of filter, and remember these filters can be as wild as your imagination can imagine. So if you want this to be your Canadian customers who are wearing green shirts on a Tuesday and bought $100,000 worth of product in the last year, you can do that as well. The $100,000 worth of product part, though, would come in as a pricing condition. So we're going to go into pricing conditions next, but I'll just wrap up these price calculations before we do that. We have a rounding rule. This is where you can apply those rounding rules, just like at the price schedule level or your customer price groups. You can also round them at the price calculation level. Down here in the tracking, we can track the adjustments to a debit and credit account. So I just mark this debit account and credit account and mark it to track, and then go ahead and select your GL accounts. It'll track to any GL accounts you'd like. So that's a calculation, pretty simple. The only difference really between a markup and say like a rebate or a commission is just if it modifies the unit price or not. Either way, all of these are just math that is tracked to a GL account. At a high level, that's all RPM's really doing. We're just a calculation engine. We're just doing math and returning it to the unit price field, and then returning any math that you want to track to GL accounts. Let's move on now to pricing conditions. Pricing conditions are really powerful. They allow us to do deals such as like BOGO, buy one, get one. So let's take a look at our BOGO price condition. It's going to start at the condition type. This is going to be our driver for when the pricing condition is met. So in the case of BOGO, we want to make sure they bought a certain number of items. So if they bought one, they get one for free. So for the condition type, we'd select quantity on all document lines. So if the quantity on all document lines is greater than or equal to 1, then you put the filter here of what item you're buying. So if they buy a sandwich, you get a free sandwich, put that item right here, sandwich, then your maximum affected quantity is 1. So any items you want to have apply to your BOGO conditional filter, you'd put in here. So you can have one item in here, but you could have multiple. That way, if you buy any of these items, this is a group of items, then they're all on the BOGO deal. So now we've said the quantity on all document lines, but let's look at some of the other options. We can also use the quantity on previous document lines, so historical data. Amount, this is dollar amount on previous document lines, so much they've spent in the past. The quantity of historical sales, so the number of sales documents they have in the past, or the number of sales items really. The amount, the dollar amount, and then right here is not the quantity is the amount of items they bought. The number of historical sales documents is the number of sales documents. So any of these we can set greater than, equal to, equals, any of these common conditioner operands, and then whatever quantity. So if you wanted to do buy 2 get 1 free, it'd be set up more like this. If you wanted to do buy 1 get 2 free, it'd be like this. So once you do that, you go ahead and put your filter here. Let's say we want our items to be, I don't have an item filter up right now, but you can just put, say, lasagna right here. So now it's buy 1, get 1 lasagna. Then you go into your price calculation, and you apply that calculation. So let's say free lasagna. Oh man, how do you spell lasagna? That's not right. Now you know how to spell lasagna as well. Looks like it's an S, not a Z. So we'll go ahead and do a percent adjustment. We're going to do minus 100 because you're buying one, getting one for free. You put the filter here, so whatever item you want to be free, in this case lasagna. So I'm going to put my lasagna filter right here. So imagine it says lasagna right here. Lasagna. And then right here, our pricing condition, this is where we pull that in. Buy one, get one. And then as long as those filters, the pricing filter is filtered, then if it's only going to be one of these items. So now if we bought a lasagna and that was filtered and then this was filtered here, you get 100% off because this pricing condition was met, and so on and so forth. So that is pricing conditions, and that allows us to do all sorts of stuff like historical sales. If you spent $100,000 in last year, buy one, get one, that type of special promotion. Buy 3 tires, get the 4th tire free, anything like that. Let's move on to, we got our pricing filters. So let's take a look at pricing books and price sheets. So price books are made up of price sheets. So if you don't want to get off of your fixed prices, you don't have to. A price book is just going to be made up as many price sheets as you'd like. You can have as many price books and price sheets as you'd like. These price books are going to be one of the price source options. So let's hop back to the price schedule just really quick to remind us where this is coming from. If you remember, we were doing cost plus pricing. So we're basing on item cost, but you can actually base on a price book. So if you wanted to do price book and have a set list of prices, select price book, and then you go ahead and select the price book here. So that's how that would be done. I'm going to switch this back to cost just so I don't mess up my environment. Item cost, hit save. Let's hop back over to the price sheets. So price books are made up of price sheets. As many price sheets as you'd like. Let's hop in here and look at a price sheet. Here are how they look. We have its name. We can put a filter on here if we'd like, so that this is filtered for whatever we'd like. We can rank it, so that way if there's multiple price sheets, we have one take precedence. With price sheets, we can set an effective begin and end date. So in this case, this price sheet is only active for 2024. If it's outside of 2024, it will not return this price. It'll either return another price if you're using dynamic pricing, and it will go and look for the best price, or it will return price not found. Right here in the price sheet details are where you actually add the values. So let's take a look at the glass carafe. This one actually has quantity breaks. So with quantity breaks, we can do tiered and volume pricing. So right here you can see if they buy this item and they buy 10 units, up to 10 units, it's $9.99 per unit. Up to 20 units is $8.88 per unit, and up to 30 units is $7.77 per unit. The difference between tiered and volume pricing, while we handle both, is that with tiered pricing, you pay at each tier. So if you bought 30 units with tiered pricing, you'd pay $9.99 for the first 10, $8.88 for the second 10, and $7.77 for the third 10. With volume pricing, if you bought 30 units, you'd pay $7.77 for all 30. So both are options. If you want to filter this, price sheet detail by customer, by a whole price filter specific to a customer, specific to a location, use a price filter. Whatever you want to do, knock yourself out. You can do it. So that is those price sheets, and then here is an example of one that's not doing volume price, or this one is doing volume pricing too. But yeah, you can just add, if you just want to say, oh, the button costs this much, and for this customer, then go ahead and do that as well. So your price sheets will be built up if you want to use those to reference for your prices. So if you have contract pricing, that's fine. And then of course, since we can use the price sheet as a price source option, we can then do markup. So, back to the price schedule, we can still take that list price and then do math to it. So, if I want to take that list price as a price source option, we can still mark it up 40%, do the vendor rebate, do regulatory fee, do any adjustments you'd like. That's totally fine. Let's take a look at catalogs and catalog sheets. So here are catalogs. Catalogs are just like price sheets. They're made up of sheets, catalog sheets. But they're different from price sheets in the sense that these are customer facing. So you probably don't want your customer to know how much they're paying for items. You just want them, they don't want you to know how much they're marked up. Well, you don't want them to know they're paying 40% above cost. So here's an example of a catalog line where we have a customer name and all of their items. Here's all their items, and then here's all their prices. So you just build it up, add all their items, calculated price comes out, and then you can export this to Excel, so you can send this off to your customers. And now School of Fine Art knows how much they pay for everything. We can also benchmark these prices. So if I want, I can go ahead and hit benchmark. That will benchmark this price. That way I know, hey, this price was last benchmarked today, last benchmark date today at this price. That way if there's changes over time, we can see from the benchmarking. So that's catalog. A catalog is basically just something that faces the customer so that they can see how much they pay for your items. Build it up by customer and item. Rounding rules, we kind of talked about those, but up, down, or to the nearest, multiples of, nearest 99 cents, whole dollar, multiple of $5, multiple of 5 cents, whatever. Let's get into, we have our ERP data over here. And then finally we have in our tools, we've got several fancy tools here. We have our pricing test scenarios. This is one of the most useful ones, just that we can go ahead and test our pricing in action. For example, here's our cost plus pricing. Go ahead and hit execute. We can see that our pricing is actually working. So here we see that cost plus was found. But we were expecting price to be this. So that didn't match the expected $500. So it's red because we didn't match. If it was how it was supposed to come out, in this case, we'll copy paste that there. I'll hit execute. And there you can see it's green, price successfully found, and it matches. There you go. So that's the pricing test scenarios. Yeah, that's really most of RPM for BC at a high level. If you want to dive into any of these more than what we've seen today, feel free to reach out at sales@rocktonsoftware.com. I'd be happy to run your scenarios by and answer any questions you have. But for now, thanks so much for taking time out of the day to check out RPM for BC. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you.